Hello, my name is Opal Singleton. I'm the president and CEO of an organization called Million Kids. Million Kids because 1 million kids were trafficked throughout the world. They still are. Our organization started in 2010, so we've been at this 15 years. We're located in Southern California, but we work all across the nation. So this podcast, I want to talk about something that just blew my mind, and that is not easy to do. To give you a little background, if you're not familiar with Million Kids, it's about 8 of us. We've been in the business forever. Several of the people that are involved are retired law enforcement, or some of them are still working as private investigators and like that. And we look at all the various kinds of cases across the United States each week. And we're looking for what's new. What can we share? We do a Train the Trainer event across the United States where each week we send out some of the latest cases and give our commentary on them. I would invite you to follow Million Kids at millionkids.org. Sign up for the newsletter. It is absolutely free. We do not sell your name, and it is a great way for you to stay current. Well, so what the heck is a nudify site, and then why should you care? Well, this started for us about last August 2024. A case came up. We do research on things like human trafficking, but also a lot on sextortion and online social media exploitation. So this particular case involved a Beverly Hills Middle School. And their headline on it, I think, said the latest to be rocked by a deep fake scandal. So I began to research this. It says that they were kids in the 8th grade, if I remember right. A bunch of guys that was doing it, a bunch of young boys. And what had happened is that they were using special kinds of software to be able to take the images of fellow students, let's say mostly female students, and they would use a software to take the head off of, or put the head on a body, but then use these nudify sites to create sexual images and nudes and like that. So I'm watching and listening to all of this. I'm reading the case on it, and I'm saying nudify sites. What's a nudify site? All of us are talking to each other. Have you heard about this? Where have we been? How did we miss all these nudify sites? So all of us got busy and started researching this. And I'm telling you, you cannot keep up with all this stuff sometimes. It's just simply amazing what happens. So as we started to look at it, these are 8th graders. And they know how to get into a computer and find nudify sites. And, you're supposed to be 18 years old, as it turns out, to be on a nudify site, but I guess they lie every now and then. Anyway, they were ending up getting expelled. They did not get charged. And one of the reasons why this is so important is to let you know that between the time of this case and now, there's been legislation passed on a federal level called the Take It Down Act. And so had this taken place a few months later, they could have been charged in addition to being expelled. So as we began to understand that they're going on to nudify sites, we started to see what they were. And it's an interesting thing as you start to look at them. It turns out there are 60 nudify sites out there. And they've been around quite a while, and I will share some of them with you because one of the things I was looking at is the domain extension of these sites. So as I looked at the 60 that are on there, it really is concerning that an 8th grader could do this. Not surprising, probably, because they're smarter than all the adults. These young people, they know immediately how to work different kinds of software. The first one, I looked them up. There were a whole bunch of them. There were 60. Well, a couple of them had 24 million users. And all you have to really do is lie about your age. And one of the things I was looking for is where are these companies headquartered? Because if they're headquartered here in the U.S., they could get sued for violating all kinds of privacy laws. But as it turns out, most of them are overseas. And some of them are in what we call bulletproof hosting sites. In other words, if you think of the domain, and our domains here are .com, .info, like that, they have to comply. They're U.S. companies, and they have their servers based here, and they have to comply with data privacy laws and the various legislation passed in the U.S. Same kind of thing if you're coming out of the EU countries. But there's a lot of countries that don't have these laws. We call those bulletproof hosting companies. And what they do is they make a lot of money by offering to allow you to place your server in their country. And they charge a lot more money because they don't ask and they don't tell. It's that simple. And oftentimes you will find that's where your sex sites are, your sex ads. Sex ads have changed dramatically. I used to myself work on the sex ads to see if we could find somebody who was being trafficked, maybe somebody that looked very young or it was being particularly abused. And like that, I no longer do that because all of these sex ads, when Backpage closed down, all the sex ad companies went to these bulletproof hosting sites offshore. Well, now that they're not subject to any of these federal legislations, then they can put anything on there, and they do. And that is where most of these nudify sites are on. The most popular one I found was out of a Caribbean island. I think it was called Andul or something like that. I wasn't familiar with that particular island. So what these are basically technology that you can go on. Some of them are subscription-based if you want the really good stuff. Others of them you can just go on and play with them and figure out how to alter people's images. And so, but what was happening here in this case is that, there are young girls in their class that suddenly they have these nudes going all over class, all over their school, campground, school ground. And these kids are saying, it's not me. Okay, it's my head, but it's not me. But nobody cares. Everybody's laughing and like that. Well, it's a type of sextortion because these people have no way to get this down. And the other problem with it is that these young guys, they're in 8th grade. I could see that they probably did not realize that what they were doing would be considered illegal. In fact, they lied on it. As I began to look up these nudify sites, I saw a headline just a little bit after this article, quite frankly. The headline said, harmful nudify sites used Google, Apple, and Discord to sign on. So that's interesting. Discord. All of our kids are on video games and video game chat rooms. It says a single sign-on system from several big tech companies have been incorporated into the deep fake generators. This is according to the magazine called Wired. Discord and Apple have started to terminate some of the developers' accounts. That's not because they're altruistic. They know they're going to get sued. And so they decided maybe we ought to do it now. They're saying big tech like Google, Apple, and Discord have been enabling people to quickly sign up to harmful undress websites which use AI to remove clothes from real photos to make victims appear to be nude without their consent. More than a dozen of these deepfake websites have been using login buttons from the big technology companies. Now, this is a story that is put out by Matt Burgess. I want to give him credit here. It's in the Security magazine for what it's worth. And so he went on to say they found 16 of the biggest so-called undress or nudify sites using the sign-in infrastructure from Google, Apple, Discord, Twitter, Patreon, and Line. This approach allowed the people to create accounts very easily, on deep fake websites and offered them a veneer of credibility before they paid for credits or generate images. So as we began to look at all of this, we began to realize just how easy it is for any teenager to access these nudify sites and be able to log in and literally create nude and sexual images of everyone they know. Some they liked, some they didn't. They probably saw it as a big game. But we need to change that, Mom and Dad. These nudify sites can be extremely dangerous. First of all, your child is saying they're 18 and they're not. Second of all, your child is going to get an artificial intelligence profile for pornography. And they are going to be fed all kinds of things once they go on that site. Because that's really how these people make their money, is that they sell everything that you do. You and I know that. If you go on to Amazon and you buy a blouse or a pair of shoes, then suddenly everywhere you look, somebody's trying to sell you that. Well, by the way, so does all those household things like Alexa and all of those, Siri and like that. Everything is about selling all the information about you. So what has happened here, though, is I began to run the names and do some research on who are these deepfake sites and how bad are they and like that. And so I got this article here about the 15 top ones. Now, we found 60, and we found that they had, some of them had 24 million users. I'm going to give you a couple of examples here because I want you to see where this is going and the dangers of this, especially if you're a parent or grandparent or counselor or youth pastor. The biggest one was called Cloth Off. And as we've looked at this, it basically is saying it's the most valuable cloth remover app. The team created it, giving possibility to change the body type, the body parts, the body size, and even the age of that, and then you upload it. Number 2, Deep Swap, as we looked at this, is an online face swap designed to create convincing images and films. So one can easily create content on the site by remixing videos, images, memes, old movies, and GIFs. One of them that really concerned me was one called Soul Gin. That's the number 3 on here. And what Soul Gin does, it enables a creator to change and create anime. Now, an anime and real girls based on text prompts. Well, anime came from Japan. It's a Japanese term, and it is a type of animated pornography. And this is really important to understand, especially if your young person is into video gaming, because so much video gaming now has anime in it. If you don't know what your child is actually getting into, I highly suggest that one of you sit down and play some video games with your child to understand the level of pornography they often get exposed to. Now, I'm not saying all video games are bad. I would never say that. But those that have a lot of animated sexuality in them can literally become terribly addictive for your son or your daughter that gets onto it. So anime is a big thing that is on several of these. Well, as I looked at them, I also saw that several of them, that number 5 was Porn Journey. Oh boy, here we go, Porn Journey. So as I'm looking at it, it says that it's an AI-based platform that creates NSFW. Now, Mom and Dad, if you don't know what that means, N, never, S, Sam, F, Frank, W, woman, okay? NSFW really stands for not suitable for work. Well, if it's so much pornographic stuff that is not suitable for work, is it suitable for your 12 and 13-year-old boy? That's a question I'd invite you to ask, because if they're going on there to modify these images, they're not just going to be sexual, believe me. So I could go on and on with all of these various sites and what they're looking at and like that. But I do think that one of the things that has happened that really leads me to have this discussion with you via the podcast is that I think it's very, very important for us to sit down right now and have a discussion with our kids about this, especially if they're starting through puberty. Now, I get it. If you're in 8th grade, you think this is funny. Okay, look at this, and look at this, and I can do this, and I can do that. And at first, it seems funny. But I also think it's important that our young people understand the harm that it does to the victim here. Several of the girls in the classrooms were just horrified to find out that their nude image, and even though they had never appeared nude, but it was being floated all over the school. They became depressed. They dropped out. Some of them were starting to feel like they were being blackmailed. So everybody needs to understand this is not legal to do that. Now, what happened is that this took place back in August of 2024 when there were not universal federal laws against this kind of thing. However, since then, the President Donald Trump, signed a bill called the Take It Down Act. And that will make it illegal even if your child is a minor. It also provides an avenue for the victim to be able to take that image and submit it to National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. We call them NCMEC, and ask to have those images taken down. But here's the problem with all that. When you start putting minors online in sexual images, there is a world full of pedophiles that will intercept those, and they will pass them around, and they will also modify them. So the key to getting your image taken down for the Take It Down Act is you have to have the original image, not delete it, be able to get your hands on it and send it over to NCMEC so that it can be taken down. The discouraging part about that is because of AI, once it goes on the World Wide Web, any pedophile can get it and alter it some more so that that image won't necessarily be taken down. So I think the first thing we have to do is, mom and dad, you have to educate yourself about what a nudify site is, and that it can be real people or it can be animated, anime kind of thing that is taking place. It's also called hentai. And there's a huge amount of animations that makes it more and more difficult to be able to stop the pain when this has been done to you as a victim. So what happens here is that the law has now been passed so that we are saying that you can get your image taken down, and there are now federal charges even if it's animation. And that's important to understand, because what was happening is this was happening in the world of pedophilia, where you had child pornographers all over the world that would make images of a child being violated and then share those images, and they would alter them so that they would say, well, this child was never harmed, it's just the image of the child is being harmed. Except the facial image is out there and out there forever. So our laws have changed. So here's what I'm going to suggest to you, mom and dad, that we do some things about this. Number one, sit down and talk with your kids and let them know this is going on. This is not going on in a vacuum. In fact, Megan Kids in their newsletter said that at least 10% of the students that was interviewed in this group either knew about a website, a nudify site, or had accessed it. So you need to sit down with your child long before it gets in there and talk about the illegality of it. That there are now laws about it, and they can be expelled from school, they can be charged, they can lose all their credentials as far as graduating from high school, and quite frankly, in some cases, they can be sued by the victim. So I think that that's important to have that, or the victim's family, especially if the family knew about it and didn't take proper precautions to get their young people off of it. But you also need to have some empathy for the victim here. And our kids need to understand, what if that happened to you? And it may happen to you, by the way, because deep fakes is a huge issue, and we are just getting started. What is really happening around the world is third world countries, their cartels are literally taking images and creating deep fakes and trying to blackmail our kids. So at the time we're having this conversation, we need our kids to understand, one is, you don't want to do this. Number one, you're going to hurt somebody and harm others in a way that is not fixable. Number two, you could end up being arrested and even being charged and losing a lot of your freedom and having a record. But number three is you need to understand that you yourself may become a victim of this, because third world countries are using their cartels to access these deep fake sites. Keep in mind, most of them are outside the US anyway, to be able to blackmail our children. So we need to get agreements with our kids that they won't do it, they won't harm another person, and more importantly, if they become a victim of someone, that they will come to you, and so that you can do the necessary steps to get it off the internet and make sure that they're not being blackmailed. Because third world countries are also using these deep fakes to blackmail our kids. I think it's important that our kids have empathy and learn to support those that have been victimized. I think they also need to learn the power they have by reporting it. Most kids think, well, I'm not going to tell anybody because I'll lose my phone. Well, you need that kind of conversation with your child to say, you're not going to lose your phone if you come to me and we talk it out and I can help you resolve it. It is very important to report anybody that is going onto these sites and creating deep fakes. I also think it's important to talk about the limitations of the Take It Down Act. I'm very, very grateful that that went through. We now have tools and we have a consistent law across the nation. Various states had it, but it wasn't consistent. Some states didn't have it hardly at all, and others didn't even enforce it. So we now have a federal law. But the key to that law is that you keep that image. So you don't want to delete it, even if it's not real. Keep that image, because what we want to do is be able to use that image to submit it to the Take It Down Act so that that image is removed in any kind of foundation, any kind of platform like, Snapchat, Meta, Facebook, like that. As long as you have the original photo, you can submit that and they will use all their algorithms to find them and take them down. I also think we need to talk about the dangers of pornography online. And I know this may sound like a prudish kind of conversation, but I am really, really concerned about the level of pornography that is enveloped in a video game, especially where they're in a chat room talking to people they don't know. I'm not against video gaming, but I'm against violent video gaming. I'm against pornography video gaming. They're saying, oh, Mom, it's just a game. Yeah, I get that. But you are making impressions on your mind. And for whatever reason, our society decided to do this just as our kids were hormonal. We give them those games just as they're going through puberty. And I often say that it's an interesting conversation about digital morality. You are what you put in your mind. And here we are taking kids who are already hormonal and putting them online. And not only that, they're now on Discord talking to people they've never met all over the world while they're watching sexual animation. I find that just some sort of crazy kind of thinking when it comes to parenting. But that's just my opinion. You're invited to your own. That I have worked with enough of these cases, I realize the young person doesn't even think anything of it, of the fact that they're seeing, that they kill they have sex in a video game with another character, and then maybe kill her to get the money back. That's been around for years and years and years. But now, with all this animation and now the deep fake, it's going to be interesting. I'm speculating here, but I'm just going to give you a thought that I had as I did this research is it won't be long, might be going on right now. It won't be long until actually what is happening is we put somebody's real face on an animated image in your video game. And that goes back and forth with others playing the video game by the thousands. So if we can take an image and put the head of somebody and a naked body that isn't even theirs and pass that around, it won't be long till we can take the actual head of somebody and put it on an animated character in a video game, and your child can have the fantasy of having interaction with that person. I don't believe that's going to be healthy, and I'm wondering how far these laws actually go. Well, I personally am of the opinion that nudify sites are something that children, not even 16, 17-year-old kids, ought to be doing. First of all, people get hurt in this. Second of all, it's not real. Third of all, you're opening the door to a lot of pornography. And fourth of all, while I'm on a roll here, is your child can end up with charges. This is not a game. Just because they can does not make it legal. So I think all of these things are important discussions to have. I can't understand why any person, quite frankly, any young person, but even an adult, why do we have to be on nudify sites? And what has gone on with our society that there are over 60 nudify sites, mostly offshore, that can be accessed by any one of us that can cause harm to another person? Show me where that's okay. I suppose if you're a cartoon developer in a movie somewhere, maybe a nudify site might be logical, but these are a form of pornography, and a form of pornography that gets very personal to people that did not get permission to be involved in that. I also start to see that this is going to become a big thing for what we call revenge porn, where people break up with each other and then they start sending out, you take these nude images during the hot moment in a relationship, and then they break up, and then suddenly the remaining party says, well, I got these images, let's use them. Sometimes for blackmail, sometimes for fun. And with nudify sites, it'd be very easy for them to say, hey, I never meant any harm to anybody. I'm just playing a game here. And so we need to stop and think this out. This is a scary place that we're headed. I also think that it's important that we sit down with our kids and talk about our values. Those of you that know me know that that's, I think, one of the most important things you can do. If you have a young person online, first of all, get a contract between them that they'll never, ever post anything that will cause them or you embarrassment. Number two is that they'll never go out and meet up with someone they met online. You would not believe the number of people that have done that or have gone out to meet with the idea they're going to negotiate back those photos. That number three, that they are going to use judgment when they go online, and that they're going to be a leader. And number four is that no matter what, if they find themselves in trouble online, they will trust you enough to come to you and share with you. But I think that it's important that we all get rid of our naivete. I think we have to come to terms with this is a changing world. Nudify sites are real. Our kids knew about it before we did, and now there are 60 of them that we could find, and most of them are quite viral, or vile is a better word for that. They're viral too, because once they make those, they send them out. So my name is Opal Singleton. I'm the president and CEO of millionkids.org. I hope that you will follow us. I hope that you might want to support our work financially. You can do that by going to millionkids.org. You can also write to me at Opal, O-P-A-L, at millionkids.org. And, have these talks with your kids. Let's make them proactive and positive and show them that they can be a leader. This isn't a wagging your finger, thou shalt not, although I think we shall say, thou shalt not, in this case. Under no circumstances can I find any good coming out of a nudify site. So maybe we start there for what it's worth. Anyway, I hope that everything works well for you and your family. Share with us. Let your family know that you love them. And I'll see you next time on our podcast, Protect and Prevent. See you later. Let your family know that you love them. And I'll see you next time on our podcast, Protect and Prevent. See you later.